Hey guys, how are you? This is Jim from the Pain PT, and today we're going to discuss stepping out of the loop. And we're going to talk about what this loop is, and we're going to talk about stepping out of it and how you do it. So, stepping out of the loop. Okay, the loop is the conditioning pattern or the cycle or your sort of traits and habits and things that you unconsciously do. Okay, so this can be, the loop can be the chronic pain itself or the symptom loop. The loop can be fear avoidance cycle. The loop can be hypervigilance. The loop can be catastrophizing. And the loop can also be things like perfectionism, people pleasing. Some of these personality traits that we see in ourselves. Okay, so the loop is an unconscious loop, and that loop will continue to loop until you step out of it. Okay, so that's the unconscious mind. It runs 24 hours a day. It's like a convenience store that's open all hours, never shuts down. And these are our patterns. Okay, so chronic pain or chronic symptoms can become a pattern itself, learned behavior. Okay, where then it runs itself independently of anything else. And that's been proven through research, and I'll go over that in another video as well to show you the science behind it. But what we're talking about today is stepping out of this loop. Stepping out of this loop, which means that you have to consciously do that. Okay, so the loop is going over here, and I'm going to ask you guys to be over here, because if you're not consciously stepping out of your loop, you're going around the loop again. You're going around and around and around, and that's your patterns. Okay, so how do we step out of this loop is we need to become aware of that loop. We need to become conscious or mindful of what's happening in ourselves. So mindful of our thoughts, mindful of our feelings, mindful of our patterns. Again, the patterns can be all the things I mentioned at the beginning. And what you're trying to do is step out over here of this loop and see it for what it is. It's just a loop created by the brain, by the limbic brain actually, over here. Let's say this is the loop going, and you're trying to go to your prefrontal cortex and see it. So you're living here. I want you guys living in your cortex, in your conscious mind, not living in your unconscious mind, because as you know, there's so many things happening there that can cause issues. And your power comes from your prefrontal cortex. It comes from that part of your brain that can see this, can perceive it, can notice, observe what's going on. Okay, that's the prefrontal cortex. And so when you're living in your prefrontal cortex, you're stepping out of this loop. And again, the loop can be emotions. The loop can be all these things, patterns, sabotage, self-blame, beating yourself up, feeling guilty, people-pleasing behavior. So behaviors can also be loops. So all these things that we do, fear avoidance, we don't go places, that's a loop because of the pain. So when you step out of it and you see it for what it is, that's already initiating a change. That's already you becoming independent of the loop. Also, what you're doing is it's weakening. So when you're in this loop over here and you're going around and around and around, and you're not conscious, you're actually strengthening it or speeding this thing up. Okay? And I always tell people, look, when you step out of the loop, what you're doing is you're pulling the plug out of the loop, the speed of it. Like if you imagine a fan that's spinning and on high speed maybe. Loops are spinning, spinning, spinning. And you pull the plug out of a wall on the fan. Okay, that's the same thing as stepping out of the loop. Now, the loop or the fan doesn't stop right away, does it? It's still spinning, but eventually what happens is the loop slows down and it weakens, it stops. Okay, now that takes time. That can take time because, as you know, with habits or patterns, like think about anything that you're learning new, it takes time. Like I always tell people, like if you're going to learn a language or play an instrument, you have to practice and consciously practice, right? So it's not an unconscious habit now. It's consciously learning. And this is the same thing. You have to consciously step out of the loops over here and come over here, okay? This is your work, is to step out of the loop and stay over here, okay? After a while, you'll learn, again, like learning, you'll learn to be over here more. You'll become more mindful, conscious, aware. That's your power, okay? Remember, the unconscious mind is under the water. It's that iceberg that's huge, and you got this little tip up here. That's your conscious mind. You got to use that power as much as you can. That's how you're going to change things. So when you're stepping out of this loop over here and you're over here, all you're doing is seeing it for what it is. You don't have to do anything else but stay here. So this loop, you go, oh yeah, there's my pattern. Here's what's happening. Now you don't want to go into this pattern. Just seeing it for what it is and not engaging it and just calling it out for what it is. This is a TMS pattern. Oh, hey, I got some fear avoidance. Oh, I'm hypervigilant. Oh, I'm getting negative thinking, catastrophizing. This loop can go on and on and on, but as long as you are over here and you don't believe it, you don't buy into it, you don't jump into it and add more, this is going to slowly stop. Okay? This is the pain. Okay? If you don't buy into the pain anymore, it's nothing. It's just a brain reaction, probably learned after a while. And as long as you stepped out of it, you're in control now. Okay? And you can see your patterns for what they are, which are just learned patterns, habits, unconscious. Like driving a car. After a while, you drive your car unconsciously. People could be thinking about everything else, and you get to your destination, you go, oh, how did I get there? I don't remember that drive at all. Okay, so that's your unconscious mind doing the process, okay? And this happens with pain. This happens with your patterns. So guys, step out of the loop. Step out of the loop and just see it for what it is. And at that point, you're free. Okay, as soon as you're over here, you're disengaged. You're not attached anymore. Okay, you're not part of the loop. As soon as your consciousness drops, you become your unconscious patterns. As soon as this goes away, you become the pattern. Now you're in your loops all day. Okay, so I call this over here shining the light. You're turning the light switch on when you become conscious and aware. And the light switch has to be manually turned on. Okay, it's a conscious choice and process. Your intentions, your perceptions, how you see things, that's all conscious, okay? And what you're learning here with me is that you consciously, from the prefrontal cortex, understand and know that a lot of the stuff is just brain and nervous system driven. They're patterns, they're things in our memories in our brain, they're histories, they're traumas, and they're coming up now, but they're just loops. There's nothing really wrong. It's just a loop of stuff. And if you can see it for what it is, you step out of that loop. And the more times you step out of it and see it for what it is, the loop's going to weaken. Okay, it's just very much conditioning, very much learning new behavior, new actions, mindfulness, awareness. Okay, so hope this helps you guys. Let's see if you can be stepping out of your loop every day and really just noticing when you've gone offline, I call it, when your cortex is dropped offline, meaning you've become unconscious and you're back in your patterns now. It's almost like, whoa, I just woke up from a dream. I was unconscious. I was going around this loop of worrying. I was going around this loop of fear avoidance. I was going around the loop of pain, perfectionism, people-pleasing, beating oneself up, blame, overreaction, suppressing my emotions. All the things are loops. They're all just patterns you've learned. Okay? So guys, step out of them. Step out of them. The answer is to step out of the loop. It's very simple, but you have to turn this on. It's not a lot of hard work. It's just a light awareness of your patterns. And the awareness is what causes the change. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.